Hi friends, welcome to Raising Lifelong Learners. I'm your host, Colleen Kessler, and this is the podcast where I encourage you to trust yourself and your differently wired kiddos as you help cultivate their curiosity, encourage them to discover the world around them, embrace who they are wired to be, all while helping them discover their passions, interests, and raise them to become the amazing adults they're meant to be. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 271. Today we are talking all about executive functions in relation to our gifted kids, our twice exceptional kids, our neurodivergent kids, and their asynchrony. Remember last week in episode 270, we talked all about asynchrony. So if you missed that episode, stop for a second, go back and listen to that one, and then come back to this one because we're going to build on that idea of asynchronous learning with our gifted and our neurodivergent kiddos, and how that affects executive function skills and what we can do as homeschooling parents to help them build those executive function skills, work through the struggles that come with being gifted, twice exceptional, and neurodivergent. All right, special thanks and shout out to CTC Math, our season-long sponsor. We appreciate them. I am a happy customer. I really recommend CTC if you're looking for a great math program. Check them out at ctcmath.com. Okay, so pop those earbuds in, grab a cup of coffee, and let's go for a walk, whatever you need to do. And let's get on with today's episode. Okay, so today we're diving into a topic that affects every single gifted, twice exceptional, and neurodivergent kiddo I have ever met. And let's be honest, it affects probably a lot of us parents too, because those apples don't fall far from the proverbial trees, and I am sure that many of you listening, like me, struggle with this too. Executive function skills. If you've ever wondered why your kiddo can ace complex math but can't remember to put on their socks, or why they can write a beautiful story with character development and details and compelling plot lines, but they forget that their birthday is today, or why they can hyperfocus for hours and hours on a special interest, but they fall apart over a simple 3-step instruction. You're in the right place. We are going to cover what executive function skills actually are. And we've talked about this on the podcast before, and I've written about it on the website. I've also written a whole series about executive function skills in Homeschooling Today magazine, and I will link to past articles, past podcast episodes, and the Homeschooling Today articles online, so you can check those out if you want to dive deeper into executive function skills. We're going to cover what those are, why gifted, twice exceptional, and neurodivergent kids often struggle with them, and how you can teach and support executive function skills in your homeschool. Okay, so grab your coffee, put your kid's missing shoe somewhere they'll actually see it, and let's get into this. Let's start with the basics. What exactly are executive function skills? Executive function skills, I like to think of them as like the control center of the brain, or the CEO of your body and your brain. It's the part that is responsible for all of the other things that your brain and your body need to do, right? It's responsible for things like planning. What do I need to get done today? What's the order I need to do it? That kind of stuff. Organization. Where did I put the recipe that I need, or the grocery list, or my cell phone? Where did I put my cell phone? Time management. How long is this going to take? Do I have enough time to get all of the things that I want to do done in this day or in the time I have allotted? Task initiation. How do I even get started? Working memory. Wait, what was I doing again? Or self-regulation. I'm so frustrated, but I need to finish this, but this is going on and that is going on. It's all of those things combined. If you're raising a gifted, twice exceptional, or neurodivergent kiddo, you've probably already noticed that these skills don't always develop evenly. Take my kiddo. For example, at 7 years old, he was solving very advanced math problems in his head. He knew a ton about science, particularly astronomy, and he could name every train that was ever in existence, along with a timeline of how things progressed from steam locomotives to bullet trains. But he would fall apart if he couldn't find something that he was looking for, or if he was trying to tie his shoe and it didn't work. By 9, he could build anything you wanted him to build out of Legos, straight out of his imagination. He was clever. He had all sorts of great ideas for the different games that he wanted to play and the worlds that he was building, but he could never find his shoes when he needed them. At 12, he could discuss in great detail anything about Egyptian history and different sciences. He could hold conversations with adults as if he were an adult, but he would completely fall apart if he were playing on a playground with other kids. He would be throwing mulch and getting into trouble and playing as if he were one of the younger kids, like the 6-year-olds. This is because, as we talked about last week, that asynchrony, intelligence and executive function don't always develop at the same pace. This can make homeschooling and parenting these kids both exciting and wildly frustrating. But here's the good news. Executive function skills can be taught and they can be strengthened, just like math and reading or any other subjects. So why do our gifted kids, our twice exceptional kids, our neurodivergent kids struggle with executive function? Let's go back to our discussion last week about asynchrony. Gifted and neurodivergent kids often have asynchronous development, meaning different parts of their brain mature at different rates. They're many ages at once. A 5-year-old might understand multiplication but still need help tying their shoes. A 10-year-old might be able to write a persuasive argument about climate change, but forget to pack their lunch for co-op or forget to even eat their lunch. It's not that they won't do these things, it's that their brains aren't wired for it yet. Their brains need more time to develop the skills that it takes to organize themselves and to organize all of their planning and their motor development. I remember being so frustrated with kids that I taught and my own kids and kids that I nannied before I understood fully the gifted and the neurodivergent brain. And after I studied and got my master's degree in gifted education and really started to dive deeper into asynchronous development and spending time working with these kids and parenting these kids, I began to understand that they need more time to develop. It's not that a 12-year-old can't do something. It's that our 12-year-olds need more time and more support to get to the point where they can do the things that we expect them to do. If your kiddo is neurodivergent, their brains are wired in a way that means that it's going to take them longer to learn some skills than others. We need to understand that and ease up on some of our expectations. If your kiddo is twice exceptional, meaning they're gifted and have some other kind of neurodivergency along with it, maybe they have ADHD, maybe they have autism, dyslexia, or another learning difference, executive function skill challenges can be even more pronounced. ADHD makes time management, planning, and focus even harder. Autism can impact flexibility, transitions, and emotional regulation. Dyslexia can make processing instructions and organizing thoughts even more difficult. One of my friend's kiddos, a profoundly gifted 8-year-old with ADHD, once spent 45 minutes looking for a sock. Not both socks, not matching socks, just a sock. And the whole time, he was giving her a detailed speech on the history of the Roman Empire. ADHD means you can hyper-focus on one thing and completely forget another exists. The thought of finding the sock or getting the sock or putting the sock on is completely obliterated because the brain is focused on the hyper-fixation that it's currently on. Sometimes gifted kids overthink everything to the point where they can't even start. So overexcitabilities and perfectionism go hand in hand. We've talked about overexcitabilities before, but I'll link to some of those in the show notes as well, some of those episodes. But gifted kids often want the perfect opening sentence, so they freeze on writing assignments. Or they analyze and overanalyze every possible outcome, so then they struggle with decision making. Or they get overwhelmed by all the steps, so they procrastinate. This is something I've talked about before with students, with members' kids in the Learners Lab, with my own kids. I do that often. There was a time, especially following like having babies when you're still in that new mom brain fog, where I'd get overwhelmed by all of the things that need to get done. And I'd talk to my husband during the day. I'd call him at work and I'd be like, okay, these are the things I have to do and I don't know where to begin. And he'd be like, okay, why don't you just throw that load of laundry in, finish it up, and then get the kids lunch, and then maybe try one math lesson. So he'd help me. That perfectionism and executive function together can be a rough combo. So how do we teach executive function skills in our homeschool with our kiddos? So let's dive into the good stuff, how we can actually help our kids build these skills. Hey there. Okay, you've heard me talk about CTC Math for a long time, and I've been sharing testimonials from other people about it, but I want to share my own right now because it's been a while since I've talked about how we're using CTC Math. CTC is an amazing sponsor. They support our work here at the podcast. They actually sponsor a lot of different homeschool businesses and magazines and events because they're so committed to making sure that the homeschool resources you have at your fingertips are available to you, that you have access to what you need when you need it. I love CTC Math for that part of who they are, but I also love CTC Math as a customer. I have been a paying customer for years and years. My kids are using it in very different ways, and this is what I want to talk about. I've talked before about its adaptability, but let's talk about this. I'm 16 years into homeschooling. This is my 16th year, and our kids are using it very differently. I've got one kiddo who's very advanced in math. That kiddo is a grade level and a half ahead, and I have their level set to mastery at 90%, meaning they have to get 90% or above to move on to the next set of math problems because that child doesn't have to speed through it. They're already a year and a half ahead. And so I want them, if they're going to continue to accelerate, I want them to accelerate with deep understanding. My other kiddo who's currently using it is right on grade level, maybe a couple lessons behind. And so that kiddo's mastery is set at 80% because I don't need that kiddo to understand every single section and get every single problem right. I need that kiddo to understand the big picture of the concepts, get at least a B's level of work done so that they can move on to the next level because that particular kiddo is probably not going into a mathy career, but they need the basic understanding. CTC allows the flexibility to do that. If you've got a kiddo, say in late elementary school, who is absolutely brilliant in math and can skip ahead to some high school level math, your subscription includes all the way up to calculus. You don't have to wait. You don't have to buy multiple levels of programs. If you've got a kiddo who you hit a snag and you realize, oh my gosh, we missed that section when we were learning third grade math and now we've got to go back to do it. You don't have to go out and buy a third grade math workbook. You just go to the section in the third grade math program level and have your kiddo do that. How flexible is that? You have every level from kindergarten all the way to calculus at your fingertips for a very affordable price. Check out ctcmath.com. If you go over to the show notes and you click on the link, it will give you whatever the current discount or special they're offering Raising Lifelong Learners listeners, and you can check that out and take advantage of that. I so appreciate CTC. I know you're going to love it, and if you don't, they have a money-back guarantee, so you really do have nothing to lose. If you have any questions about CTC, you can always reach out to me, and I'm happy to answer those questions. All right, let's get back to today's episode. Okay, so let's tackle that, how to teach these skills in our homeschool. One really great strategy that we can do for our kids, first of all, is remember that it takes them longer to gain these skills than it does for other kids their age. And it's not bad. It's not better. It's not wrong. It's just different. Our kids develop differently. And when we say, okay, but my 15-year-old should be able to organize themselves and get through their math and their writing and their reading and their other subjects without me hounding them and just like reminding them a million times. Yeah, that might be true for most 15-year-olds or for a neurotypical 15-year-old, but for your neurodivergent 15-year-old, they might need more time with that scaffolding. They might need you to write things out every day. They might need you to check in with them every 45 minutes or half an hour or 15 minutes or whatever. Again, the beauty of homeschooling is we get to tailor our day to what our kids need. We get to help them build those skills. So one thing we could do is make things visible. We could use visual schedules. I do this for my kids still, my younger two, and they are 12 and 15. I have a visual schedule written out that's laminated so they can check it off with a wet erase marker every day. And it has things on it like their basic bare minimum must do homeschool things, 2 math lessons because that's what I expect them to do each day, handwriting. So for one, it might be a journal entry, it might be a page in a handwriting book, whichever they're working on at that time, just building the stamina and the practice of handwriting. Some reading, some writing, whatever other subjects or projects they're working on. So it lists all those out. And then it also has things like for my daughter who has different pets and is responsible for the family pets, feed the dogs, play with the dogs, let them outside. For my son who's responsible for emptying the dishwasher and cleaning up things around the schoolroom, it has those things listed. It also has things listed like do something nice for each of your siblings. Make sure you spend 15 minutes outside. It has things that they're expected to do every day and also character building things. I use that checklist so that they remember. I also have our calendars color coded. So there's a calendar on the side of the refrigerator that changes out monthly. There's calendars in my office that have things, and then there's the Google Calendar as well as my paper calendar. We have multiple calendars, and the same things are written down on all of them, and they're color-coded. That's both for me and my own ADHD and my kids, so they can see at a glance by looking at, okay, that's the purple. That's Logan. So this is what Logan has today, and we can just check at a glance. So I have all of those things for my kids, and I highly encourage you to do that too. They can start making their own schedules too if you want, but have something that's visual and something they can use day by day. You can also create step-by-step breakdowns for multi-step tasks. Our kids should be, yes, expected to keep their room clean, but oftentimes for our gifted and neurodivergent kiddos, especially our kiddos with ADHD, it gets very distracting to clean your room. They get up there, they see all the things that they want to do, or they start to sort something and then they read a page in a book and then they're all of a sudden engrossed in the book. Or they start working on, they find some yarn that they were using for a crocheting project and all of a sudden they're crocheting and not getting their bedroom done. If you create a step-by-step breakdown or you give them 1 or 2 small steps at a time and have them check in with you, you can start alleviating some of this, and then you can help them build those skills because they see how to focus on one task at a time. So instead of saying, go clean your room, you can say, okay, go up to your room and bring down all of the dirty dishes and cups and water bottles that are up there and put them in the sink, and then check in with me. Hey, that's great. You got that done. Okay, now go upstairs, take this trash bag and go up and collect all of the trash and then bring it back down. Fabulous. Okay, can you go upstairs and can you get all of your laundry sorted? Put your clean laundry away and then bring down anything that's dirty. Just go step by step. You can also use sticky notes for reminders and organization. Have multicolored sticky notes. Give them sticky notes where they can put reminders when they think of things so they don't forget. All of this works because it makes the invisible steps of routines visible for them. Another thing we can do to help our kids with executive function skills, especially when they're asynchronous, is we can teach time awareness. We can use timers. Visual timers work great for younger kids. Digital clocks, cell phones, audible timers work well for older kids. Help them estimate how long things will take and then compare it with the actual time so they start to make those comparisons. And then let them set a timer. Okay, I want you to take 15 minutes to work on your room right now and then come back and check in with me and we'll do something different. So set the timer. When it goes off, they can come back and check with you and then go do something different and then rotate back in. Keep circling back around. Use routines to create consistency. Routines can help teach time awareness because they know that they need to get these things done before lunch and then we eat lunch and then they do this, and then we do a cleanup around the house to get ready for the end of the day, and then they go back and do these things before dinner and these things after dinner. Routines create consistency and help them to know what to expect. Little kids, you can play a game called Beat the Timer. Can you clean up your art supplies before the song ends? Or how long do you think it takes to load the dishwasher? Let's time it. Those have two different outcomes. For those kids who like to work with competition and to test their limits, cleaning up supplies before a song ends can be very motivating. For kids that get stressed out with those kinds of time limits or competitions, you can ask them to think how long it takes to do something, time it, and then compare the answers. These things turn time management into skills, not stressors. Okay, another thing we can do is build in breaks in movement. Especially for our ADHD kids, they really need breaks and they need novelty and they need things to be done in small tasks. We want our kids to stand, walk around, fidget while working, give them novelty, give them different things in between. So maybe they're working on a math lesson where they're sitting in front of the computer, or they're working on a workbook. And then once they're done with that, go do something else, a scavenger hunt, something that they can run around and do. Take the reading lesson outside, maybe. Go for a walk and notice all of the things that are budding perhaps for the season. If you're in springtime and you're working on seasonal changes with your younger kids, or have them work on mindfulness, go for a walk or just go outside and sit and close their eyes and think about all the things that they can hear. Take a snack break. Oftentimes our gifted kiddos or our kids who have sensory challenges, having a snack that's cold or hot or crunchy or soft can give them a sensation to break them out of the monotony and then get them refocused and back in. Use brain breaks to reset focus. We've got some articles on the website about brain breaks, so I'll link to those in the show notes. Those are great strategies to help our kids focus. And another thing that we can do really to help our kids learn executive function skills is give one task at a time. Instead of giving that huge to-do list, if your kids work better in small bites, give them smaller things to do, just one thing at a time. Or maybe you just have the subjects listed out, and then when they get to the next one, you tell them what to expect or what they're going to do so they don't have to overthink about what's coming up next and what's coming up next. When my kids were younger, we used a strategy called work boxes, and it was just simple plastic boxes labeled 1 through 6, 1 through 12, depending on their ages, and put one assignment or one subject or one project or a snack or a surprise in each of the boxes, and they just went in order and worked through them, not knowing what was coming next. So there was the novelty of surprise by going to the next box, and then every day one of the boxes had a snack in it. One of them had a game in it. And so they never knew when that was coming up, and it was exciting and interesting, but it was also one task at a time and gave them the opportunity to look forward to the next thing. Okay, so I've given you just a handful of suggestions to help your kids, especially those with asynchronous development, help with or learn and work on executive function skills. Like I said, I focused on this a lot in different podcast episodes and in different articles that I've written. So I'm going to link to a lot of those in the show notes. If your kiddos struggle with executive function skills, you definitely want to check those out. I'm also working on a course on executive function skills that you and your kids can work on together. So stay tuned for that. If you are interested in learning more about that course that's coming up, highly recommend that you join our newsletter. You can find the sign-up form on the bottom of the show notes page or on the bottom of any article on the website, and you can also find it in the sidebar of the homepage. Sign up for the newsletter because you'll be the first to know when that course is available. You can also join the Learners Lab because it's the membership community. It's where I am at most often. I'm always answering questions. I do a group coaching session every month with parents, and I'm there to answer their questions through DMs. But we've also covered executive function skills with kids numerous times. So in the archives, There are creative thinking activities and lessons that you can work on with your kids to build these skills. There are social and emotional EQ quests that you can work on with your kids to work on social and emotional and executive function skills. And there's talks and master classes for you, parents, about working on executive function skills. So you can find links to all of that in the show notes, and I recommend that you definitely do that. So today we talked about what executive function skills are, why gifted, twice exceptional, and neurodivergent kiddos struggle with them, and then a few practical ways that you can support these skills in your homeschool. The biggest takeaway, though, that I hope you walk away with is that executive function skills can be taught. It just takes time, patience, and a little bit of creativity. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Connect with me on social media, on Instagram, or drop me an email. You can find links to all of my social media over on the website and the show notes. You can find a link to the contact form, which goes straight to my email inbox and a voicemail box. If you want to tell me what you are thinking about, what you're struggling with, or how I can help you. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Until next time, just keep meeting your kids where they are. Remember, progress, not perfection. You've got this. You are an amazing parent raising amazing kids. I hope that you remember that. Thank you again to CTC Math and all of our sponsors. We appreciate you so much, and it's because of you that this podcast can keep continuing to reach listeners and to help homeschooling families who are raising outside-the-box creative thinkers. All right, we'll be back next week, same time, same place with another episode. I will talk to you then. Have a great week. Bye for now.